Hey all, Taves here, back playing some more Planet Zoo, and we are back in Zimba Zoo. So this is episode 2 of the Zimba Zoo project, which is a African themed and African located zoo that I'm doing as part of the Kangathon 2021 fundraising project. So this is all about raising money for the Cango Wildlife Ranch in South Africa. So a bunch of creators have come together to help raise funds for them because they have, I think they said 15,000 animals they've got, and it costs an enormous amount of money to run a zoo, and they've had financial hardships with COVID-19 and all that sort of thing. So a bunch of people come together. Links will be in the description. And this is episode 2. So in the last episode we focused on getting the actual kind of main entrance itself built. We did the car park. We did a bit of the kind of roadway and all that sort of thing. And now we're filling in the gaps, really. There's 2 things happening in this episode. So as you'll have seen from the title, we are bringing in the guests. So we're doing some work on the bus station or a bus stop. And also working on the actual kind of ticketing area, so where the ticket check goes. And the overall aesthetic of this zoo, as you can kind of see here, is a bit sort of shabby. Things are a little bit run down, but not too bad. Kind of rough around the edges. Supposed to look like it's a bit wild, all that sort of thing. I'm really enjoying this aesthetic, actually. I'm really enjoying kind of getting everything a bit kind of rough and ready. So working on a little, as I said, there's a sort of big gap. As you can kind of see it in the background. That was the thing we had in the last episode. We ended the episode with this great big gap between where the car park was and where the building was. And the plan was it was going to be I had always had the intention that it was going to be a bus stop, but it was kind of a little bit big, so I needed some stuff to kind of fill in the spaces. First of all, starting off with this nice little kind of a little bit of aesthetic little pond. Obviously this is on the path, so this is something that's probably a bit more man-made, hence I've used the faux rocks there. And just try giving it a bit of water, a bit of movement, a bit of cooling sort of movement of water and stuff. And this is a nice little indication of the way that the overall aesthetic of this zoo is going to be. So you see the pipes there. I think you see them again in a second. But making a point of making sure the pipes are visible, just for sort of like it's not too kept. It's all kind of a bit rough and ready, but also a bit kind of practical and makes sense. I really think these little, you only saw me doing it very briefly there, but those little dried grass pieces that come with the South American pack were actually really good for that kind of weathered looking grass. So trying to break up some of this gap. I noticed actually while I was doing this that my fence set that I've created there has got one of the pieces as discoloured, so I fixed that for the workshop. So I've got the kind of practical fence there, and I need something to make it a little bit more attractive. So worked on some trellis work, copied a bunch of these little kind of decorated. I think that's the African daisy, and then went through and kind of randomised it, make it look a bit more pretty. And then we jumped onto starting one of the actual bus stops themselves. So this bit of footage goes through pretty quickly because this is actually not the one I ended up using, but I ended up quite liking it. I did include it on the stuff that I've uploaded to the workshop, so it will be in the collection. Link as ever to that in the description. But I sort of did this one. I went for a bunch of different images of like cool looking bus stops. And came up with this one loosely based on another one I'd seen. But just didn't feel like it fit the aesthetic really. A little bit too modern, a little bit too kind of clean looking. But I thought it actually worked quite well for just a sort of fairly generic bus station. So I carried on with it, or bus stop. So now we're getting into the actual one I end up using. So this is kind of felt a little bit more in keeping with the style I wanted and what I've got so far. So a lot more timber, a little bit more organic in the sort of shapes and things, a little bit less kind of I guess pretty modern still, but it's not quite as clean looking as that other one. These colours suit better. That kind of slightly duller metal, I think works better for the aesthetic I'm going for. So pretty simple. Obviously, they don't use this. The guests don't use this. There's no concept of buses. They don't wait anyway for these sorts of things. So I didn't worry too much about trying to make that actually look like a bench. It's just supposed to be somewhere that they kind of wait in the shade. Obviously, this is an undecided and undetermined location in Africa, but obviously it's going to be pretty warm. So it's been a bit of time on this, and this is actually something that will be uploaded with both workshop entries. So built this little kind of timetable thing. I didn't fuss on it too much. Well, I guess you probably could say I did fuss on it a little bit. I think this particular bit of footage is at like 900 speed in order to make it not last quite so long. But yeah, just went through and wanted to make it kind of feel like a bus stop timetable. As I said, I haven't worked out where geographically in the country, or sorry, on the continent, Africa, Zimba is. So I wasn't going to worry too much about making this too detailed. Just kind of the implied timetable, and there's two of them, and then there's supposed to be like two buses servicing this bus station, or this bus stop coming into the zoo. So yeah, just added a little bit of detail in, little numbers and stuff. I might end up adding one of those numbers onto the actual the bus that I use. The bus that I use is from the workshop. And as I said, I think I've said this before, but anything I've used or anything I've created will always be in the collection. So if I've used something off the workshop, there's too many different pieces to end up crediting everybody. I think that's actually Mo Blanc's bus at the end. But so then getting onto this little kind of utility building. So there's not actually, for some reason I lost a bit of footage of this, but you'll see it when we do the tour. But again, trying to create a little kind of palette object. So this is going to be the design of a lot of the backstage buildings. I'd never really used the mud texture before. Recoloured. It's actually really nice. You get that kind of, because you can sort of see the grass in it still. Moving into the actual building, so this is the second major thing that gets done in this episode. This is the ticket office. So yeah, we had, if you remember, we had the kind of this is the actual kind of that kind of conical shaped building. And I'm putting some little ticket windows in, and I borrowed some ticket windows. Well, I pinched some ticket windows from a previous build. So when I built the entrance to Chester Zoo a way back, if you haven't seen that one, go check it out. And I built these little windows for it, and I've kind of reused them. It's always handy to reuse something when you're someone that spends so much time on every little detail. I made the little roller blinds there that just kind of looked a bit more convincing, and then something to sort of tuck them away in. Next, we're onto a little shelving thing, little desk and stuff, because obviously I can't just have the dudes standing at the window. They've got to have their own little office space. These pieces I've been using a bunch recently, actually. The Australian sign pieces, really nice and skinny, good for doing this sort of thing. So I put these little cupboards in, and then decided, wouldn't it be cool if they had some drawers in there? So start making some drawers out of the little brackets. But is that enough? No, that's not enough. I decide, well, wouldn't it be cool if one of these drawers actually looked like it was open? So we made the actual drawer front, put the drawer sort of sides in there, and the bottom, for some reason you can't even see the bottom. I don't know why I'm even bothered with that. And then there's actually, because we can see inside the drawer, maybe we've got to have some stuff inside the drawer. So this was just supposed to be like some implied like maps and stuff, and some leaflets and things they might be giving out to the guests. Anyway, peeps, right, we are pretty much coming to the end. As I said, there's always a bunch of stuff that you won't see in the speed build that you'd see in the real-time tour. So join me again for that in a minute. Right, peeps, welcome back to the tour. So we're going to start over here in the car park. We saw this last episode, so nothing particularly new to see here. We're going to make our way along the path here. I did some work on the kind of crossings and stuff. It would be lovely to have some null paths and some null guest spawners, but unfortunately we don't have those. So yeah, if you come from the car park, you walk along this track. This probably needs a little bit of work. That's a bit jagged, is it? Just there. And we have on the right hand side, this gate was here before. So gate access, sort of staff access and loading access and stuff into the back of the zoo. But I've added this kind of, I think I just added a little bit more to this. I think this was in the last episode, a slightly sort of outside loading bay area. And then yeah, you see the bus is now parked up. We can see the guests spawning. So the guests are going to spawn. There's going to be a few different guest spawners in different locations so that they don't all just end up congregating here. So let's go check out this. So just move on through past this lot. Excuse me. Yeah, so you'll see that the spawner is just sat underneath the bus and they just kind of disappear into it. So yeah, here's the actual first bus stop. Here's the bus stop I ended up using. I think I've got the lights on. They probably need to be switched off. And you have an option. There's a kind of an overflow option. So there's a gate that goes, a big double gate that goes into the main part of the zoo there, or into the entrance building. But this isn't actually linked up. This path's not actually linked up, so the guests don't go that way. Again, it would be really cool if there was some way of like blocking guests off on a path that isn't just like stacking bins, because I've got a closed gate there, but they just breeze through it. Now, so there's my timetable. I think this kind of works as a shade. It's kind of cool looking. I'm alright with it. It looks like they could just kind of chill on those bits there. And then yeah, this was, as I was saying, everything's kind of the aesthetic of Zimba is everything's going to be, the little bits around the edges are going to be a little bit rough looking. So anything to do with animal care is always going to be pretty high quality, but there's going to be a few places where you see little bits of fence and stuff knocked down. So here's my little kind of, there's nothing in here, but this is like implied kind of little storage building or something. And then I've used created some of this like temporary fencing stuff. And I've uploaded that to the workshop, so if you want to grab it. So it's supposed to just be like where they've used fencing just to kind of, shut off some areas and stuff. So this is all like proper backstage, somewhere that the staff don't really go themselves. And this was just to fill in some gaps really. So there's another little gate here, and then this goes into a completely kind of messy, nothing really, no one comes back here. Just this kind of fever tree hanging out. So let's go back, scoot round past the bus stop again. We'll go back round onto the main path. I had a little bit of fiddle around, played around with this actually. That mud. Once I realised that you could recolour the mud walls, I've never realised it before, but actually it's quite a useful little thing to have there. So yeah, I've made this look like it's kind of dirt between the logs there. Really, I did that because the way those two paths link together is basically impossible. So if you see that comes up to a squared edge, but it's also got a joint in it, the game never lets you do that. It would have to have a curve, so the path actually curves round, but I've covered it over with those blocks. So yeah, there's my fence over there. As you can see, I don't know if you probably didn't really notice it. It zoomed past super quick, but again, there's some of that kind of, things are a little bit messy, a little bit broken down around the edges. I'm loving this. I'm loving this texture. This new kind of, what's it called, Niteria or something plant is super cool. Loads of the marula bushes down as I did before. Created a few of these little kind of shady spots, so little places where they might want to sit along the actual path. Obviously they don't use those because they're just implied, and we're not walking on the path. We'll let all those lot walk on the path. Yeah, and then you saw this bit. So this is the a little water feature. This is the other side of that bit where the tyres were and stuff. Is just on the other side of this. Yeah, that tree is all covered up by these the nice prettiness, and then we make our way down the path. So behind the rhino there in the background is not done. That's all got to be done still. Some more little benches, more little spots. A little spot for the rhino to hang out. Just a bit of an aesthetic spot. That's actually a picture again in that other coloured gravel just to give it a bit of contrast. I'm not sure about the gabions. I think they'll stay, but I shall have to work out. Did a bit more on this, so all of these ended up getting, these flower beds ended up getting a bit more decoration, a bit more detailing, just a bit more rough looking. As I'd sort of started to fill everything else out, it looked a bit too polished, a little bit too bare in there, so gave that all a bit more. And then this is all now, this kind of side now is all finished, so you'll see there's some more benches and the way back up towards the gate. So that is where I said that there was like an overflow gate from the bus stop. That's there. So let's just scooch along here. So yeah, done all these edges now. This is all a bit, you know, a bit more polished, a bit more tidied up, finished off. I don't think there's needs anything else. That's obviously a little gate that goes back to that little service building. And then, yeah, the last bit that we did, hopefully we don't end up on the roof here, but we shall see. So this is the actual ticket check area. So obviously they don't actually use this, fortunately. I was playing around with the idea of maybe putting some vista points or some education boards, so at least some of them would stop and look at the staff member there in order to look like they're kind of, you know, having their ticket checked or whatever. Created these little map things. These aren't on the workshop yet, but they will eventually be on the workshop as like a set that you can use all out of font pieces. So one closed window, as you see, they've got a little office space themselves back there. And I'm pretty sure if I yoink through there, oh, I made it amazingly. So each one of these sides is different. There's my little open. I think that works out all right. There's a little open drawer. Couple of little bits off the workshop and a bunch of things I'd made myself, some shelves, and then that door is supposed to go back out, and then there's a door going that way, neither of which go anywhere at the moment. Let's push past this one and then on the other side. Oh, we made it. Yeah, so they're having a little chat, but yeah, pretty much that's it. I'm pretty happy with that so far. Can we go through this door? Yeah, so this will end up back on the main plaza. I started working on some food stuff for the next episode, and I think I'm going to have the guest gates, the actual park entrance gates around the edge. I've got to experiment to see what happens when you get multiple of these and whether they kind of what determines which one of them they use. Obviously, if they've got nowhere to go at the moment, so they don't go anywhere. Anyway, peeps, right, let's do a quick flyover. As I said, don't forget this is all as part of the Kangathon 2021, so don't forget to show your support. If you can't financially support it, which is very understandable, then just sharing videos like this or tweets and stuff that you see from people creating content for this this very worthy cause. And I shall see you guys on the next one. Take it easy.